In this lesson, we are going to learn 4 theorems involving parallel lines. The first theorem says that if two lines are parallel, then all points on one line are equidistant from the other line. What that means is if we have line L and line M that are parallel, then the distance from point A over to this line M will be the same distance as from point B over to line M. And it's going to be the same distance from point C over to line M. So if the distance from A to line M, say, was 3, then we know the distance from point B to line M would also be 3, and the distance from point C to line M would also be 3. The second theorem says that if 3 parallel lines cut off congruent segments on one transversal, then they cut off congruent segments on every transversal. What that means is that if we have this line here, and this third line right here, all being parallel, and if we know that AB, this segment right here, is congruent to this segment right here, BC, if that is the case, then we know that this other transversal, this line cutting through these 3 parallel lines, will also create congruent segments. So XY would be congruent to YZ. And then we know with this third transversal cutting through that the distance from D to E will be the same distance as from E to F. The third theorem says that if a line contains the midpoint of one side of a triangle and is parallel to another side, then it passes through the midpoint of the third side. What that means is if we have this triangle created where this line is parallel to this line right here on this opposite on the side of the triangle, and if also we know that it's going through the middle of this side over here, so AM is congruent to MB, so M is the midpoint of AB. If that is the case, if they're congruent and the lines are parallel, then we know that it crosses through the midpoint on the other side as well, meaning AN right here will be congruent to NC right there. And N would be the midpoint. And the fourth theorem says that the segment that joins the midpoints of two sides of a triangle is both parallel to the third side and half as long as the third side. What that means is if we have this line MN that goes from the midpoint of this segment AB, so M is the middle, and also goes to the midpoint of the line AC, so N is the middle, the midpoint. If that is the case, then we know that MN must be parallel to BC. We also know that MN, this segment right here, will also be half the length as BC right here. So if MN, say, was 4 inches, that means that BC must be twice that length, so 8 inches.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.